Hey everyone! So I was recommended to watch Trollhunters by a commenter from a previous video that I made, and I decided why not just try out the series. I went into this series completely blind because I've never heard of this series before. It is a Netflix original series, and it's made by DreamWorks. But another thing is that it is based on a book that Guillermo del Toro wrote, and he's also the person who is directing it, writing it. Like, he has so much involvement into the series. So the beginning of the episodes start where it's like very early morning, like the sun hasn't risen yet, and there's these two monsters, I'm guessing they're trolls, that are fighting against one another. It was shown as the sun was rising up that they can't go out into the sun or else their bodies would turn into stone. The fight between the two trolls ends when one of them sacrifices themselves because he didn't want to end up being killed by the other guy. When his body falls, it breaks into a million pieces, and the other troll, he was trying to reach out for something that he had, but obviously he couldn't reach out for it because of the sun, and so he just gives up. And then the camera just zooms in on this little amulet, and the scene cuts to this kid named Jim. He's cleaning up the house, he's making lunch, he's taking care of his mom. After he's done with all that, he goes outside to meet up with his friends so that way they can both go bike to school. Since they don't want to be late for school, they decide to take a shortcut that goes through the canal, and apparently the canal is the same area where the two trolls are fighting. And Jim, he overheard something saying his name, so he goes over to the pile of rocks and picks up the amulet. Before he even gets to have time to sort of mess around with the amulet and see why it was saying his name, they hear the school bell ring and they hurry up to go to school before they get late. So they were able to make it to school, and while their teacher is talking about world history, you can see that Jim is apparently crushing on one of his classmates, who later on in the episode invites him to participate in a play. After class, his teacher has a conversation with him about how he's not really paying attention in class and he's worried that he's not going to do well in school. And the main reason why is because, according to Jim, apparently his mom is a doctor and she's working double shifts, so that means that she's incredibly busy and he has to do a lot of things on his own, like doing the chores and like cooking, and it takes up a lot of his time. He's a bit worried that his home life is getting in the way of his academic career, so he writes down a phone number to give to Jim so that way he could give to his mom so they could try to talk things out. There are hints throughout the episode that there are other trolls that are looking over Jim. They finally show themselves in front of Jim when he goes down to the basement to check if there are raccoons running around. There's two trolls that introduce themselves to him, and their names are Blinky and R. They explain to him that the amulet that he has chosen him as his champion, and that he's now been given the role of Troll Hunter, which is to basically protect the rest of the troll population. Of course, Jim was freaking out throughout the whole entire time that Blinky was trying to explain themselves, and he ends up fainting. The next day, he tries to explain to his friend and also to his teacher what has happened yesterday, but he couldn't really explicitly say it because he doesn't want to come off as incredibly crazy. His teacher is just assuming that he's having hallucinations because of his anxiety over his mom and the fact that he has a lot of responsibility back at home. Jim's like, okay, maybe that is the case. But before he leaves, his teacher catches a glimpse of the amulet that he has in his backpack, and you can tell that he also knows what it is. Near the end of the episode, when it's around the evening time, he goes outside to check out his amulet because apparently it's glowing, and it also had some words written around it as well. And once he read out loud the words on it, it started to form this suit of armor around him. At first it starts out like a bit too big on him, but then it reforms to fit his body type. It also formed a sword on him, and of course it started out too big and then it just shrunk down to its proper size. The last scene you get to see is his teacher driving to the canal and checking the pile of rocks and seeing that the amulet is gone. And he's talking to the troll that you get to see in the beginning of the episode. You can tell that they are apparently like working with one another, and he knows who the troll hunter is next. And he is determined to get the amulet even if it's at the expense of Jim's life. And that's pretty much how the episode ends. This episode does a really good job at establishing the characters and their role in this series. Now with Jim, of course, he is the main character. He only has his mom to look after him, and so he views his teacher as sort of a father figure to him. And so it was a really surprising twist to see that his teacher ends up being the bad guy. I feel like his teacher will use his power over him to his advantage, both as him being the teacher and him being the student, but also as him being a father figure and him being his child. You also get to meet his best friend. To be honest, I don't really like him as a character so far. I know that he is considered the comedic relief because, you know, he's fat and he's nerdy and, you know, he has all these stereotypes of an unpopular kid in high school. Honestly though, his takes on comedy isn't really that funny. Like, I didn't find that gym scene where he was trying to climb the rope really funny. In fact, I kind of found it predictable too. Like, oh, I knew that he was going to be at the bottom of the rope when he seems to be at the top. There was even this scene where he was trying to put on his socks and he falls down and hits the gym lockers twice. I just think that was a bit excessive and it just didn't seem to go anywhere. I just hope that they treat him better as a person later on in the series, and that with his comedic relief they make it actually comedic rather than just slapstick and just making fun of the fact that he's fat and nerdy. He's not completely for comedic relief. In fact, he tried getting all the rest of the students to chant "let him go" when Jim was being harassed by the school bully. I found that part of the episode to be very cringeworthy just because it was so cliched. Like, you get to establish like, oh, he's the school bully and he's standing up to the school bully on behalf of this kid who was in the locker, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna beat you up at Friday. You also get to meet Jim's love interest. Her name is Claire. All I know so far about her is that she's in a play, she has a blue streak in her hair, and she is the love interest. That's basically it. But when I was watching through the ending credits scene, there are a couple scenes with his friend and Claire fighting alongside him. The teacher, in my opinion, has the best character development out of this episode just because you see him start off from like being a normal teacher who honestly does care about his student to a person that actually works alongside the trolls. Another thing is that I'm really interested as to how the teacher is connected to those type of trolls. Like, maybe he's half human, half troll, or maybe he casted a spell on himself to make himself look human in order to blend in. When it comes to shows that have this hero and villain dynamic, I feel like Trollhunters does this dynamic incredibly well. I like how there are a couple connections between the hero and the villain, and how the villain knows who the hero is, but the hero doesn't know who the villain is. And I'm kind of interested to see how Jim reacts to the fact that his teacher is in fact gonna try to take the amulet away at any cost, especially because of the fact that he really does view him as a father figure. So I feel like it's not only like a personal betrayal as a hero, but also as a student and as a child that's still growing up and is still trying to find himself in this world. The writing and the pacing and just the animation too, it's all done very well. And I'm really impressed with how the show is going so far. Like, it has a really strong start for a first episode. I'm also really interested in Blinky and R. I want to see them train Jim on how to use the amulet and how to fight alongside the trolls and how to fight against evil. I'm just really excited to see where this series goes. Like, there's just so many possibilities on where the story may go, and I just hope that it's just done really well. And I just love all the characters. So that was my thoughts on the first episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!